When it comes to South American football, Brazil and Argentina suck up all the attention. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. And it kind of makes sense, right? They've won multiple World Cups, they're among the most notable and successful national teams of all time, and they've had many legends of the game, such as Messi, Maradona, Pelé, Neymar, Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, and many others. And then you get teams that play exciting football like Colombia that also get some attention. And then you have also Uruguay that has won World Cups like 100 years ago, but has recently had a few legends of the game, such as Luis Suarez and Diego Forlan. But what if I told you there's a sleeping giant? Actually, not really a giant, but a national team that is growing, getting better, and could become a World Cup dark horse in a very near future. A very underrated national team flying under everyone's radar. And today I want to talk about the sleeping giant, or the next powerhouse of South American football, how they have grown, and how big is their future potential. And that team is Ecuador. Hello. If you're new here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Chapéu Football, where we provide the best coverage of Brazilian football and South American football in English on YouTube. So if you enjoy that type of content, subscribe to the channel right now and hit the like button if you want to. Now, if you don't want to, there's absolutely nothing that I can do about it. And today I want to talk about the rise of Ecuadorian football. Yes, it's been on a rise, whether you like it or not, it's happening. And I'm going to start this video going through where they were before the 90s and where Ecuador is now, like what's going on with Ecuadorian football. Then I will talk about and show you why they went from absolutely nothing to an emerging power in global football. And I know some of you are going to laugh at me saying, emerging power. Trust me, you're about to find out in the 2026 World Cup. And after that, I think they're only going to get better. We'll address that throughout the video. Right now, you can laugh at me, but I am right. Trust me. Last but not least, I will go through what they are missing, what Ecuador needs to improve to take that next step and become a legit powerhouse, because they're not there yet. And let me know in the comment section down below. I have a question for you. Which is, right now, the most underrated national team in the world coming into the 2026 World Cup? Is it Ecuador, Colombia, Japan? I love Japan. That's a very underrated national team. Morocco, Senegal? Let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts. Don't forget to drop a like. It helps the channel a lot, and it's free, and free is good. So just do it. Roll the intro. Let's start the episode. Okay, so before we dive into the rise of Ecuador, we must dive into where they were before they started this rise, right? Because for you to rise, you have to be down here first. So let's go back to where they were before they started to improve their own football. And when it comes to World Cups, Ecuador didn't really qualify to their first World Cup till 2002. Now, mind you, they didn't really play World Cup qualifying till 1962 or the 1962 edition of the World Cup. But again, they didn't qualify to the World Cup while playing World Cup qualifying from 1962 all the way to 1998. So essentially, all the way till the 90s, Ecuador was absolutely nothing in global soccer or global football, like literally nothing. But in the 90s, things slowly started to change, and we're going to talk about the why very soon. The national team didn't really qualify for the World Cup, but in 1990 and 1998, Barcelona from Guayaquil made it to the Copa Libertadores final. That is the Champions League of South America. So there were signs that things were heading in the right direction. Even so that in 2008, Liga de Quito actually won the Copa Libertadores, defeating Fluminense in the final, 6 years after Ecuador played its very first World Cup. So it looks like the turning point for Ecuador was the 90s, and we're going to dive into why very soon. Hold on to that. And from the 2000s beyond, we start to see massive steps forward from Ecuadorian football. I mean, Antonio Valencia joining Manchester United in 2009 was another massive win for Ecuador in the 2000s. Now, all of this came with a few bumps on the road. After all, Ecuador qualified to the 2002 and 2006 World Cups. Then they failed to qualify for the 2010 World Cup, while making a return in 2014 and then failing to qualify in 2018, which is perfectly normal because growth ain't linear. They then qualified for the 2022 World Cup with the youngest squad in the entire tournament. Now, the 2026 World Cup qualifying cycle is where Ecuador really made a statement. They started the World Cup qualifying campaign with a negative 3 points due to a situation with a player named Brian Castillo. And even though they started with those negative 3 points, Ecuador finished in second place, only behind Argentina and with the best defense in South America. Yes, they started with negative 3 points and they finished ahead of Uruguay, Colombia, Brazil, everyone else. This generation is strong and they're also young. They're led by Moises Caicedo, one of the best midfielders in the world. They also have incredible players like William Pacho from PSG, Piero Hincapié, Pervis Estupinan from Milan. And personally, I think the bumps along the road are gone. I do not think Ecuador will miss another World Cup. Listen, Ecuador, being a strong team, is now a reality. My question is, when will they blow up? Because I think they will. Eventually, they will win a Copa America and possibly go deep in the World Cup, maybe to the quarterfinals, I don't know. Even though they still have a few things to fix, they still have a few things missing that we're going to talk about towards the end of this video. I also want to add that right now, at the time of this recording, Ecuador is the second or third best league in South America. They're clearly behind Brazil, but I don't think they're behind Argentina these days. If you look at the results of the Copa Sudamericana and also the Copa Libertadores over the past 5 to 6 years, let's say in the post-COVID era, Ecuador and Argentina have been pretty close. Now listen, before we talk about what's missing for Ecuador to take that next step, we must go back and talk about what changed. Why is it that all of a sudden in the 90s, Ecuadorian football started to drastically improve? What happened? And this is my favorite part of the video, where you smash the like button, you also subscribe to the channel, and I start talking about the actual reasons we are seeing the rise of Ecuadorian football. And I actually have 3 main reasons. Obviously, there are more than 3. There are micro reasons. These are the big reasons, right? The macro. The first one being the influence of Dusan Drašković. And there's a belief that this guy laid the foundation for what we are seeing today in Ecuador. And you may be wondering, who is this guy? Who is Dusan Drašković? And he was a former head coach from Yugoslavia that in 1988 took over the Ecuadorian national team all the way till 1993. And well, during that time, they did not qualify to any World Cup. So what did he do? Well, he planted the seed. He laid the foundation to set up Ecuador to develop as a football nation. So let's talk about that. So Maria Belén Arroyo, a prominent journalist in Ecuador, she believes that during his 5 years managing the national team, he actually started a football revolution. And I'm going to quote her. This is what she had to say. There is a full consensus in Ecuador that Dusan is a revolutionary. He created a national football team that inspired many youngsters to love football and become professional players, especially those from places with high levels of poverty and no education or work opportunities. Before him, no one believed in a career in football, she told BRN or BIRN. Under his tenure, the Ecuadorian national team started to show professionalism and gain recognition and respect from competitors and form a solid generation of talented players. And in 1993, Ecuador actually finished in 4th place in the Copa America, which was a huge moment for Ecuadorian football. And Maria Belén Arroyo also added, Ecuadorians believe that Dusan's vision and hard work planted those seeds for Ecuador to be where it is today. Dusan changed how players were selected. He traveled to several low-income communities to find talent. He implemented his training methods far beyond fitness, but focusing on technical and mental development of the Ecuadorian players. Not long after he left the national team, Ecuador qualified for the 2002 World Cup. He wasn't the coach at the time when they qualified, but he was the one that laid the foundation to get them where they are today. His legacy lives on in Ecuadorian football. Reason number 2 is the Independiente del Valle Academy. Yes, that is a big reason. Now listen to this, a rising tide lifts all boats, and Del Valle is the rising tide. Now don't get me wrong, they ain't the only academy in Ecuador developing good players, but they are most certainly the best. I'm gonna say it, I think Independiente del Valle these days, they're probably a top 5 or top 10 academy in the world. I think if you say top 5, that's actually not crazy. Top 10, in my opinion, easily. I mean, look at who they gave us the past few seasons. Moises Caicedo, William Pacho, Piero Hincapié, Kendry Paez, that is very talented, he can still develop. And if you want to drop the level a bit, but he's still a good player, Gonzalo Plata, that plays for Flamengo. And there are more coming up right now, like Justin Lerma, the 17-year-old attacking midfielder that just signed with Borussia Dortmund, Independente del Valle Academy. Or the 16-year-old twins, Edgar and Holger Quintero, that just signed with Arsenal. When Ecuador defeated Argentina 1-0 in World Cup qualifying this cycle, they had 8 starters that came from a Del Valle Academy. And then 6 subs were also from the Independente del Valle Academy, which is unreal. They invested heavily in their academy back in 2007 when they were still in the second division. And it most certainly worked. And listen, these players and transfers to Europe don't only strengthen the national team, but it also strengthens the Ecuadorian soccer market. More money equals more investment. European clubs are now willing to bet on Ecuadorian players more than ever, a lot thanks to Independiente del Valle. It's crazy how much youth development has improved over the past 20 years, and it's mostly due to Del Valle. And reason number 3 is very much connected to Del Valle and even to Dusan's time as an Ecuadorian head coach and everything that he's done for Ecuadorian football. It's that people trust the soccer economy in Ecuador more than ever. There's more money flowing in, there's more money being invested than ever, and that is one big reason why Ecuadorian football is on a rise. There's more money flowing in via transfers and investment. Over the past 5 years, Ecuadorian clubs have generated more than $200 million just in player sales. Those are huge numbers for a country like Ecuador. The country has become a talent hotspot, and European clubs are watching. That also leads to more Ecuadorians wanting to invest in soccer there in Ecuador because they see it as a profitable market. We already talked about Del Valle, but the Ecuadorian Federation has also invested a lot of money from FIFA's Forward program, or Program Me, whatever it's called, into technical centers, including a major hub in the coastal province of the Guayas, to bolster both men's and women's team. My overall point here, more money is being invested, better infrastructure, better scouting, better everything. So essentially, the growth of soccer in Ecuador has led to investors and people with money in the country and from outside the country to see it as a profitable market. That leads to better investment into scouting more talent, something that Dusan did back in his day. Better infrastructure to help the players develop, better education, better nutrition. Everything helps. Now, if you think about it, the 3 main reasons for Ecuador's rise were a visionary pioneer, an academy with a very successful track record over the past 20 years, and more money flowing in. There's no secret recipe, right? The 3 main reasons are pretty damn obvious. Now, let's talk about what's missing, right? Because Ecuador has not had a deep run in World Cups. Ecuador has not won the Copa America. So, what is missing for Ecuador to take that next step? Okay, so I've told you the 3 main reasons for the rise of Ecuadorian football. Now I want to talk about 3 things that I believe are missing for Ecuador to take that next step. The first one is pretty straightforward. We talked about the Independente del Valle Academy. There are other academies in Ecuador doing a decent job, but they need one more at the Del Valle level if they want to take that next step. Think about it for a second. I just told you, when they defeated Argentina in World Cup qualifying 1-0, they had 8 starters that were from the Del Valle Academy. Obviously, they were professional players by then, but they came from the Del Valle Academy. And 6 of the subs were also players that came out of the Del Valle Academy. That is great, but they need one more academy as good as that. Why? That'll add more depth, and it will allow them to have a few more world-class players like William Pacho and Moises Caicedo. If they can have another academy that good, they might get another 1 or 2 world-class players. That'll elevate them, and they'll get better subs. It'll increase their depth. So the first thing they need is one more academy as good as Del Valle, which they do not have, or something at least close. The second thing, which is quite important, and if they get one more academy as good as Del Valle, it might actually fix this. Ecuador needs to start developing forwards and creative players. They have many good defenders, right? Left back Pervis Estupinan, Piero Hincapié, center back that can play as a left back too, William Pacho, Moises Caicedo is a CDM, maybe even the best CDM in the world. But where are the forwards? Where are the 10s? Where are the good wingers? They're still playing Ener Valencia up top. And then one of the best wingers they've produced in the past few years, Gonzalo Plata, talented, but he should be a good sub or maybe not even make the roster. They need to elevate that. Ecuador needs to start developing great wingers, attacking midfielders, and forwards. Now, Kendry Páez showed up as a promising player, but that's just one. You can't put all of your eggs in one basket. They need to develop multiple Kendry Páez-like players so that after you have 10 of those, 1 or 2 pan out. 1 or 2 work out and turn out to become very good players. So whether it is with Del Valle or a new emerging academy in Ecuador or investors, whatever it is, they need to start developing forwards. I also have this theory that even though Ecuador did better than Colombia in World Cup qualifying, people talk more about Colombia because they have better forwards. James Rodriguez, Luis Diaz, right? These are the exciting players people like to talk about and watch. Ecuador is a better team, in my personal opinion. At least they have a better defense and they've gotten better results throughout the World Cup qualifying campaign. The moment Ecuador also starts to develop forwards, it'll draw more attention to their national team, more money to their national team, and the results will improve because they are already developing world-class defenders and central defensive midfielders. But they still haven't figured out how to do so for wingers, 10s, and center forwards. Like, Ener Valencia cannot still be starting for them. I'm sorry. They have to find a better center forward, a better young center forward. And the third thing that I think they're missing right now is also pretty straightforward. It's the sense of belief. Ecuador, at some point, they have to come into the Copa America believing they can actually win it. They have to come into the World Cup believing they can make a deep run. They cannot keep that small team mentality if they want to take that next step. To me, for example, that's the biggest reason why Japan does not take that next step. They respect the opponents too much. They don't believe that they've grown to become a strong side. They still think they're that tiny team, the underdog that can't really beat anyone. If they pull a draw, they're happy. They need to change the sense of belief, like Morocco had in the 2022 World Cup. Were they better than every team that they defeated? Probably not on paper, but they never quit. They believed they could defeat them, and that goes a long way, trust me. You cannot take that next step into becoming a strong team if you still think you're a weak team. And that has to change with Ecuador. And I talked about Japan. It's the same thing with Japan. They need to click and change that mindset. And I think in the near future, we might see Ecuador finally win a Copa America as soon as they find a way to develop forwards. And in the World Cup, don't be surprised if in the next 2, 3, or 4 editions, they make a quarterfinals or semifinals run. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me also know which is the most underrated national team in global football right now. Subscribe, drop a like, and thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.